I think we can slowly start. Next panel, panel integrity of audiovisual content in the age of AI. And I would like to invite to the stage with me dear panelists. The order will be similar like before, so we will have a short, please come and join me on the stage. Don't be shy. And we are missing one more panelist, and even two. I will sit as well. So we deliberately decided to invite representatives of different fields to have a broader spectrum of approaches and challenges. And I'm super happy that we can hear your unique and highly valuable perspective on the question of integrity and authenticity in the audiovisual archives. So our starting point is something that Alec called, and I very like this term, AI summer, that audiovisual archives are currently experiencing in many different ways. We can observe very closely artificial intelligence is now very celebrated by the users and challenging the way the audiovisual content is created and archival audiovisual content is modified or even synthesized. Moreover, even if we are very much in the beginning, AI-driven processes are already influencing how we apply archival principles in practice. So we mentioned that we are again a little bit fearful in publishing things online, but also it influences how cultural institutions publish and present their collection online, on collection platform, institutional websites, or services such as Europeana. Many institutions, including FINA, also are right now working on their AI publicity. So, for example, FINA recently published a document about acquisition of new produced materials. So if you would like to take a look at it, you can find it in a section for legal deposit. It's deeply digged in, but I think you can find it. So we would like to know what is the provenance of materials we are collecting based on deposits, which are both legal deposits and voluntary deposits. As before, we would like to have a short presentation. Please keep your questions for later. Our first presentation will be given by Marta Materska-Samek from Jagiellonian University. Marta is assistant professor and researcher at the Institute of Culture, specializing on in the ecosystem dynamics of the film and audiovisual industries. You can read much more about her from our website. For the purpose of our conversation, I decided that you are philosopher and economist, and you will give us this kind of broader look from above. Please, if the floor is yours.
Thank you, Director Wysocka. I'm asking questions, but I'm not actually a philosopher. So however, asking questions is a big part of my work as I'm researching film market, film industry, and how the ecosystem change through the social, digital, and green transition as well. So I came today from Krakow, and not only one, because I see some people from Krakow as well. I work at the Jagiellonian University, and as I said, I work researching film ecosystem and looking into what is happening and what kind of discussion we have at film industry. We are discussing a lot about curation of the content. We are discussing a lot how the film are visible, how they are discovered, and how to find our audience in new type of interaction between creators and the society, because from, as you can see from the title, a lot of part of curating the content are taken by the recommendation algorithm. So if you take a look at the one of the biggest platform delivering audiovisual content, which is YouTube, if you can look into the numbers, they are really brutal. Yes, the 91% of the content is not no, the 1% of the content generates 91% of the visibility. So there is no any Pareto equation. Yes, only 1% of the content is visible. And the remaining 99% is a kind of long tail, which gets only 9% of a view. So this is mainly your content. Yes, if you want to reach the audience through the platforms like YouTube, your content not be this 1%. Yes, because this 1% content will be short, clickable shorts, not deprived of authenticity of the story, of the reflection, and you will be unfortunately in this remaining path. The other aspect of the film industry, which is quite depressing, is that the industry is growing about 2% per year, which is below inflation. Yes, so the industry is not the most flourishing now, and we have a lot of question about the future of the industry, especially that television do not play such role as it was it had a long time ago, and our audience diminished importantly, especially if you look into the children audience. Yes, the children audience are next to the smartphone, next to TikTok and YouTube. And this is the brutal numbers coming from the film industry. Another issue is that we have a lot of threats using these new channels to get visibility, to get discoverability, to reach the audience. Yes, because if the heritage is not working with the society, there is no sense and no goal for this heritage. Yes, because this heritage is what is meaningful for the society. So looking into the platform, we have the first problem of the format war, which is not compliant to the archive content. 90% of new YouTube uploads are shorts, microdramas from 30 to 60%, deprive of the authenticity, deprive of the educational load, cognitive load, and it's ephemeral by design, easily consumed, easily forget. So this is the first big threat. The second is how to reach the audience with sovereignty. Yes, the BBC decided to go online on YouTube with the premieres to reach a wider audience, and but going into the platforms, you lose your decision maker, how your content will be seen, how your content will be composed with other content, other shorts, and what will be the storytelling behind. So this is the high risk, how your content will be used without your curation. And another issue is that the heritage is a training data now. Yes, these 99% of feeds from YouTube are just used by Google Gemini to train algorithms. So this is the threats we are facing now. So a lot of dilemma and no easy answers, yes. The question, should we go to the YouTube and hand curation to the algorithm? Should we stay sovereign and accept near zero discoverability and access to audience? Or do we reframe openness, which is the question of today? So how to assert that provenance, authenticity, and context are precisely what, yes, we want and what the platforms cannot provide. Yeah, this is the final statement, but before I made it, I have some small piece of hope. Yes, a lot of documentaries, a lot of archive materials are the top-rated content in media because they are true. So this is also the kind of trampoline, a leverage we can use to reach the audience because we are true, because we are authentic. However, in 2026, the most watched platform hosts 280,000 years of video. Almost none is from your archive. Almost none will be found. So what does this openness mean when the algorithm decide what is open, what is seen, what is visible and discoverable? Okay, so this was my opening questions. I'm a researcher, so yes, a real philosopher asking questions, and I hope we will find together some responses.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm sure we will come back to some of those questions. And now I would like us to go to the next presenter, Joanna Diamant, an archival producer and documentary filmmaker. For our panel, I think you will bring the perspective of filmmaker who is using archival footage, but you're also a storyteller and creative researcher. So I am very curious how you explore history and how also the media intersect with audiovisual archives and how you are cooperating with Audiovisual Archive.
Is this thing on? Yes? Okay, there we go. I hope to touch some of those and a lot of those topics you can find me ranting about after a few glasses of wine. So find me in a few hours after dinner and we can talk so much more about this. All right, yeah, my name is Joanna Diamant. I am a producer, writer, director, and because I am based in Berlin, a city of hustlers, I am also a karaoke host and performance artist, which is why my voice always sounds like this. This is not the way I usually sound. And I specialize in archival production. And I want to ask quickly, so I don't get into anything too obvious maybe, who here has been, or has worked with an archival producer? Okay, a few. All right. It's okay if nothing I say is obvious. My own father asked me what an archival producer does almost a decade after I became one. That was 2 weeks ago. So I would like to think I have a pretty wide range of how I apply archive. There are some stories that I work on or work with, either if I am, depending on the exact role that I am taking. And of course, I think everyone knows in this media landscape, everyone is wearing 200 hats at the same time. So there are projects that I build kind of entirely out of an archival narrative, and then there's a lot of projects that simply utilize archive in casual ways, in important ways, across sports, music, and more increasingly brand films. That's becoming a very wide sector of places that want to dig into a brand's archive. So yes, I'm coming into this discussion from a using it side of the archives, even though I love hearing the other side, and I'm very interested maybe in one day flipping and joining the archives themselves. So in terms of how AI is being integrated and just about the integrity of the archives that we're dealing with, when it comes to just being an archival producer and working with producers or directors, a lot of people also do not understand what an archival producer does and have very little experience working with the archives. So often there's a deep misunderstanding of how much time this takes. There's times I get called in with a deadline of 3 days to clear 200 pieces of footage, and everyone here knows that's just not gonna happen. And it's really fun being the bad guy telling people that they're gonna miss their deadlines. And more increasingly, you have people who are looking for things or trying to create things that did not exist and that risk altering the historical truth of our collective narrative. So I'd called this my talk about the protection of historical truth, and the more I actually thought about it, I realized that it's not that protecting historical truth is actually so much more about shaping it and negotiating it, because it is not a singular narrative at all, and I need to stop using the word narrative. So I've worked in a lot of projects around collective and historical memory, both in the US, where I'm from, and in Germany, where I've lived for almost 5 years. And those are two countries with both sparkling human and civil rights records. Oh, no one laughed at that. Oh, sorry. So historical memory, so basically my point is that both countries take very different approaches to how we record and archive historical memory. And these things are often, especially in the US, at least right now, where I'm really following a lot of stories, these things are dictated by law and not by morals, and now especially by technology. And I will say that the conversation we're having around AI in this room is much more sophisticated than the way that I think most people that I interact with are using AI. I'm surrounded by slop all of the time. And I'm, to be honest, really tired of it. I'm very open to hearing from my fellow panelists about responsible uses of AI, and I always want to stay open-minded to the conversation, but I will be honest that on a personal level, I really try to stay away from it, and I really try to encourage a lot of creatives I know to, at the very least, adjust the ways they are using it. Because I really worry about the responsibility, the diligence, and the creativity that is being affected by overusing AI. And when I say AI, I'm going to very specifically refer to generative AI and the really popular models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, God forbid, Grok. Because these are, I mean, if you look especially at, Twitter, and I refuse to call it X, that these platforms are being developed and shaped by people who I kind of personally, morally disagree with on many matters. And a lot of producers I work with are either checking or replacing my work with generative AI, either research or content. And it's happened several times that I've done research and a director or producer will say, well, I asked ChatGPT this and it told me this. And I have to say, like, in that case, you just paid me for time that you didn't need to, but also you're wrong. And the information you've gotten is entirely unverifiable. Or they'll bring me on to correct the mistakes that AI have made. Hey, ChatGPT told me that I can email this person and this person and this person about this piece of footage. And none of those people exist, the emails bounce, and the footage never existed in the first place. I'm watching really intelligent people and creatives spread and write things with blatant misinformation. I was working on a sports-related project, and I got a script draft from someone who I know watches sports, and the script claimed that Neymar Jr. has won Ballon d'Or. It's kind of a modern football tragedy that he doesn't. So it was really shocking to see that in an officially submitted script by someone who, it shows me that they didn't research it, they didn't write it, and they didn't even proofread it. So I'm very worried at how smooth our brains are starting to become when we're dealing with factual information and creative ventures. I don't want to believe it's malicious, but I worry that just the altering of historical narratives and the information we share, if we are not checking it, risks becoming so. Because archives, and all of you prove this, are deeply human. I really enjoy the works of Sadia Hartman and Ariella Azule, and we learned from them that the archive is not a complete record. It's a human biased system that determines who gets a place in history and whose histories get shared. So I'm very frustrated when people try to replace things that don't look good, or they try to fill in gaps with misinformation rather than analyzing and sitting with that gap itself and interrogating why it exists and how we can shape a narrative that is respectful to especially the communities that are not reflected as diligently in the archives. Documentary truth, especially related to archival, is really not just about the material we use, but it's about how these materials are handled themselves. Archival gaps are a working condition that we work with, and especially in a lot of the genocide and memory work that we do, and then also then on the flip side, branded work, archives are gatekept in different ways. And I don't always use, and gatekept has a very negative connotation, but I use it a little more neutrally here. Sorry. So some issues with generative AI in documentary is, for me, the question of is this real or not is a very loaded question, because the question of is something is real used to just be, you know, is this the way that we want to portray a history? Because if you look at, I mean, in the US, we had a political candidate running on shutting down the Department of Education, because education is not necessary, I guess. So the question of is this real or not could potentially only pertain to, does this agree with my narrative that I want to share about history? And now is becoming, is this an entirely fake piece of media that does not portray a reality that we have all lived in together? Filling gaps is not about preserving or presenting history, it is rewriting it, and I'm very concerned about that. I don't think the messier or the less convenient parts of my job as an archival producer are a problem. To me, they are the most meaningful part of my work. I don't think art or history needs to or should be convenient. And who or what are we smoothing out this narrative for, both with much shinier footage and also with misinformation. I'm worried I'm talking too much. So just getting to the protection of historical truth is about protecting and refining the process with which we turn history into art. And I think we all need to be a little more comfortable with saying, I don't know, but let's maybe find out together. And that really brings me to just the transparency that I have started really requiring in my archival work with production. The APA, American Archive Producer Association in the US, has generative AI guidelines that I really recommend everyone check out. They're constantly being negotiated and updated internally as well. Because I think a lot of teams need to be really transparent about how and where AI is being used. It should not be invisible. We should, you know, see how the sausage gets made, for lack of a better term, as a vegetarian. And we really, we lose integrity when we try to reshape a narrative with something that is generated and not recorded and not interpreted. We can't pretend that we have full access to history or even that archives contain that. So I really try to work with and interrogate what we have before we start generating a more palatable version of the truth itself. And collaboration remains the best part of my work. I don't do anything alone, and I would never want to. The archival work I do with, I'm sure people here in archives, maybe some of you have received 200 emails from me. I'm not sure. If you have, you can yell at me later. But I would rather go back and forth 200 times with an archivist or with a footage sales agent that halfway through takes a vacation to Mallorca and the whole thing takes 3 months than use an AI, than use generative AI in my archival work. Because I think shortcuts without accountability will change the meaning of what we find, of what we're finding in the archives and what we are here to discuss.
Thank you, Ilana, very much. I'm sure we will come back to the keywords you were using, provenance and transparency. That's a something which is essential for the archival work as well. I am still hoping that we are flashing a little bit of light now, and I introduce now Joanna Kaliszewska, my colleague from FINA. She's a digital archivist, collection manager, specializing in audiovisual heritage preservation. Joanna worked extensively with making our collection management system fantastic since many, many years. And of course, she succeeded. And the context we invited you here, Joanna, is our new project, Immersion in Culture, Zanurzenie w Kulturze, is a project we are doing together with CSW, which also colleagues who are representing this institution are with us. And Joanna is responsible for the task force where the real products, software products are created. And I hope that's you, Ilana, you said you like working with archives. I have an impression that archives can work better and faster if their workflows are AI fluid, but we need to always say if it's what kind of AI we are talking about.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. So, Joanna, your floor is yours.
Yeah, I think. Hello, nice to see you here as guests at FINA, and I think, thank you. I think that my presentation will be also a continuation of what you already talked about, because there are lots of key points that will be also in my my speech. So just to show you the landscape of what we are working right now here in our institution, but also some of our thoughts about the use of artificial intelligence and what is our approach to the not only theory but also implementation of those tools in real archive that is very dependent on the high quality data. But before that, I just want to show you exactly what we are doing right now in our digital archive, because in the last 5 years, the National Film Archive of the Visual Institute has been collecting and securing impressive amounts of data and descriptive information. So yearly, we can estimate it amounts to over 150,000 of metadata records per year that are created in our digital archive, and estimated as we ingest around 800 terabytes up to 1 petabyte of file data in our digital archive. So those numbers sound very impressive. Probably most of archive, the normal documentary archive cannot really comprehend 1 petabyte of data yearly. And those numbers are very impressive when we also consider work that has been done by our colleagues here in our institution. We had to engage several teams to create this level of information in-house. And in truth, the truth is that we have been working on our digital collection for over 15 years, and our internal MAM system, collection management system, contains right now over 1.5 million of records. However, in recent years, those recent years have shown us that those numbers listed here on the slide should be considered as a new norm. In times when data growth is at high scale and the history of digital preservation, that's the normal amount we are receiving yearly. So today we can observe another occurrence connected with this situation. Our institution does not have enough people to handle such a large amount of data, whether audiovisual or film materials, and we cannot really handle this data by using only manual work, even when it is enhanced with digital tools. We are just simply not enough to stay in touch with those numbers. So we need to ask ourselves, how can we respond to this growing volume of data? How can we, what can we do? What should we do in this situation? And of course, after thinking for a very long time, as you do in Archive, one of the thoughts we had is just to implement new automation tools, and then AI happened. So we thought, okay, let's go with it. And why is this so enchanting? So I would say sexy for archivists. AI tools might be a really useful solution for this very complex nature of description for audiovisual and film content. The accuracy of AI models to calibrate and learn from the digested information allows archivists to more effectively incorporate it into their collection management system as tools. So from our archival context, the AI potentially allows us to enhance metadata and improves the quality of the metadata with tools made for automatic identification of people, objects, places, and its speed is far beyond the human capabilities. It allows us to increase the efficiency and the speed of data processing, for example, by using tools to create sequential description of video. That's really fast and efficient. And also allows us to increase the speed of processing and increasing our collection with new materials and just growing the institutional collection. And it's thanks to automatic data generation, automated file ingest. We can, with that kind of tools, shift the workflow from data creation to data validation. And everything sounds great here, but there are also not so good sides of AI tools. And we also need to consider them when we think about adding it into archival workflow. So on one hand, when considering AI implementation for audiovisual and film archives, especially those operating at the state level, we must consider all the pros and cons associated with using this type of technology. Because on one side, we have enormous benefits that are connected with those tools. So for example, improving the quality of metadata and making it interoperable across multiple fields of use. So for example, boosting the level of metadata for scientific research, for statistics, for better searching inside the collection, for making it faster available for public audience. That's a very good usage of it. We also can relieve archivists by lessening their work weight. While their professional profiles are evolving in our archive, the work is being changed from focused on generating description to tasks related to the validation of prepared and stored data. So we're just changing the nature and lessening the quantitative burden of their work. We can also make our collections more accessible, and that is quite crucial for the popularization of the content we have, to make it more public, more accessible, open. However, it's also important to remember that there are some uncertainties associated with AI use. So it is a relatively young technology, and it carries unpredictability. It's dependent on the foundation used in the development and implementation processes. So we need to remember that it's really important to rely on the best possible input data, because we don't want to distort any information, make it biased. We don't want to create more work for our colleagues in archive, because the data that's generated automatically should always be validated, verified, if it's correct, if it's proper. And that's why we should also focus on the quality of the verification, the high quality of validation phases. It's the most important task in this whole process. There are also other issues involving the safety, security, but also what was already said, the transparency issues for AI-generated data. I personally believe that the transparency of institutional archives must be set on the highest possible level. And it should exclude data sharing for commercial process as a must. We should not be involved in commercial usage for especially tools that are generating AI results. But despite those issues that I already mentioned, because there are always pros and cons, good and bad sides, despite those issues that might come with such implementations in our archive, we still want to invest our time and energy, especially with this EU-funded project Immerse in Culture. And we have several pillars in this project. One of it is connected with AI implementation in our internal workflow. And we are focusing on 3 spaces within this project. One is face and object recognition tools that we want to implement into our collection management system. OCR tools that are powered with AI, that are more elastic and not really focused on very static visual generation of the data. We also want to add speech-to-text AI-enriched tools to have better description, better summaries for those materials, but we want to do it in a way that will be validated and quality checked. That's also a part for increasing the accessibility of the content. So we want to make it more open, more accessible. And the plan for the next 2 years is to implement those tools and enrich around 360,000 of metadata records up to 2028. Hopefully, maybe next time we'll see here each other. On next EUscreen, I will be able to show you the results of how this project worked or not. But hopefully it will work, and we'll have a very nice presentation how it went. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. I hope we can make it. And we will stay in the archival world. And I would like to now invite Fabio Paula Bedoya Huerta, a film historian specialist working in the intersection of traditional preservation of film and emerging in AI technologies. It was a very nice occasion how we met. I am totally enjoying Trust in Archive initiative, and I totally congratulate you on the work you are doing for them. So I hope we will hear a little bit more about it. So collaboration is a key to survive this very dynamic time. Fabio focuses on developing AI workflows for cost-effective restoration, the digital labs for damaged films, and he has presented internationally on accessible AI solutions for audiovisual heritage institutions. So, floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Now, first, some backstory on the Trust in Archives initiative. It's kind of funny that it's called Trust in Archives, and you can see the J and AI thing there. So, in 2024, the AMIA conference in Baltimore, no, AMIA conference in Tulsa, no, it was AMIA conference in, oh my God, I forgot. 2024, the AMIA conference was in Milwaukee. Yeah, in 2024, in the AMIA conference in Milwaukee, the APA, the Producers Archive Alliance, they made a small round table. In that round table, they invited a lot of archivists, people from all over the place, people from Iron Mountain, people from Paramount, people from all the major studios, and normal people like me, to have like a small conversation about the use of AI in archives and how AI was affecting their archives and everything involved. So, and from that discussion, a lot of topics surged. What definitions of AI could we use? Upscaling and modification of AI, language that was common for licensing content for using AI, how people can react or how they can talk with tech companies when they want to approach to use their archives as data sets. And all of those conversations became the basis from this group. At that point, we didn't have a name. We started meeting online in about February of 2025. And then we kept going. I mean, this was mostly the people that were in the AMIA conference, plus a couple of random APA members. And then we started growing, and then like around, I would say, a couple of months ago, then we came up with this name. But the idea is that we are coming from different places. Like a lot of institutions here were initially based in the US. Now, last year, there is a couple of people from Europe that started joining. And I think that's great because we can, because there is a lot of different experiences with AI. And I want to show you some of the work that we've been doing and how we like divided the type of the things that we want to show, and especially the toolkit that we developed. And obviously at the end, you will see the page that we've been working on. Yeah, now, it's basically why we need to do this Trust in Archives initiative, because the archives need some shared guardrails. Now, one of the main topics that people were asking those days is that it was really difficult to put some of their concerns into certain words, because a lot of people are afraid of AI, and some people, they want to use it. Obviously, same thing that happened with what Lina was telling us, is that some people don't really like generative AI, but they like the use of AI tools in archives. So how they can like make those two kind of contradictory points work together, so they can like keep doing the things that they want to do. And what we came up is basically that we need to set up some guardrails. First, we need to talk about authenticity and provenance. So I think that's one of the main points, and I think that's one of the points that the C2PA initiative, the ITPC committee, and a lot of places are trying to point, like, how do we determine a good way to determine provenance? Because if AI images are going to be here, or AI videos are going to be here, and they're going to be here to stay, or even AI modified image or AI modified videos are going to be here to stay, then we need to trace them back, or we need to properly differentiate them from organic or videos or organic images. So we need some sort of authenticity framework. Now, licensing, in the case of you being an archive, can no longer be neutral. I mean, you need to have some sort of AI language, because the way that it was before, you wouldn't, I mean, you would expect some sort of transformation. I mean, if they wanted to do like maybe a documentary or some sort of TV special or something like that, you will assume some sort of modification to the material. But now, the way that AI can transform the material is totally different than it was before. So now the material can be used and in a way different form than it was before. So again, the licensing language has to change. And the tech partnerships and the need diligence. So the way that we speak with these companies, because some tech companies are more, or say, honest about their intentions, and some of them obviously are not. And some of them will, especially if you are a small archive and you have a lot of like specific material. I don't know, maybe you are, you have a lot of, you have a lot of, let's say, specific animals material, or you have like a zoo kind of archive or something like that. And some company wants to, like, I don't know, scrape all that and try to improve their models, how they generate animals or something like that. Now, let's say you don't have that amount of funding to even digitize all of your stuff, or even to catalog all of your stuff. And then the AI company comes and, hey, I have the money, I will digitize everything, but you will give me permission to use it, and you will give me permission to do whatever I want with this. And obviously, at the beginning, some of those small archives will say yes, because they didn't have the money to do them by themselves. And obviously, the government or whatever organization that was funding them didn't have the money to do that. So they will say yes. So now we're trying to incentivize, if somebody has, obviously is in this position that a tech company is trying to approach them, but it doesn't even have to be a big company, because to be honest, OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, all of those companies, they don't really source the data sets anymore. There are small companies, like middlemen, that source data set. They gather all those data sets, then they sell the data sets to the big companies. So those companies that are gathering the data sets, sometimes they can have like shady practices. So again, giving those small archives some sort of guidance on how to speak with these, let's say, aggregators, I would say it's in the core of the Trust in Archives initiative. It's no longer a question of AI or not AI, because we are way beyond that point at this moment. It's which users will preserve integrity, who decides, and how do we document that choice for the future users. Now, what Trust in Archives is publishing now is a living toolkit. So it's if you go to the webpage and if you start seeing a lot of things that we're going to be doing in the next few months, basically we're trying to create all of these different resources for people to use. So due diligence questions, people use cases, questions about provenance for repositories and materials that are already in archives. Licensing templates, this is really interesting because these templates have been already been used by some of the members. And funny thing is that they have been receiving some pushback from those aggregators. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but it's there. And taxonomies, because we need to have some sort of definition, a joint definition. It doesn't have to be extremely technical. I mean, I'm part of the taxonomy teams. I'm a person that works with AI every day. But I know that the language that we need to give people, especially archives, it needs to be something that they can approach from a more sensible place. So obviously, it's not going to be entirely non-technical, but it's also going to have it's going to be approachable. And strategic engagement, basically how to talk, how to approach, and how to respond, or how to license this material. Decision rubrics and questions for evaluating scraping, training, and collaboration offered from AI companies. And also, we were thinking about some archives were thinking about the idea that maybe the archive should be the one selling the data set, maybe preparing the data set and selling them themselves to the aggregator, instead of the aggregator being the one trying to take it all, because you don't even know what the aggregator will do with your archive. So what this enables for archives? Make better technology choices without treating every AI tool as equivalent, because that's true. Set clearer boundaries between restoration assistance and generative alteration. That's something that happened a lot of people, especially when they're working in documentaries, because people can use upscaling tools or some sort of generative restoration tools, but they will most likely alter the material to a point that is not really recognizable anymore, or it will hallucinate details that weren't there in the beginning. And that happened with a lot of materials that we've seen in a couple of documentaries. Document provenance and attestation for researchers, right holders, and the public. This is important, and this is aligned with every single committee and organization that is working with provenance. We need to enforce this, or at least we need to make sure that it exists. Provenance metadata is something that we need to talk and we need to enforce. And negotiate from a stronger position when vendors or model builders want archival material. I think that's important, especially if you are a small archive. And obviously, the Trust in Archives toolkit is intentionally collaborative, and it's going to be updatable with all the feedback that we can get. Please scan the QR, please comment, whatever, and you can even join our meeting. As you can see, we have different coalition partners, the AMIA, APA, FIFTA, Focal International, Footage Fest, and the Society of American Archivists. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fabio. Thank you for all the advices. And in this collaborative spirit, we continue. And I invite now Montse Baliak. You are very experienced documentalist with more than 40 years of archival research experience and experience in audiovisual documentation. You are responsible for the historic archive at 3CAT, how should I?
TV3, 3CAT, CCMA, we have a lot of names.
Choose yourself since 2015. And you bring extensive experience in archive research, rights, and documentation practices. And this documentation practices already catch my eye, developed through the work with the public television. You are a member of the Commission Value, Use and Copyright at Fiat IFTA and participant different European projects. There are so many that I just suggest you to go to our website. You can learn more about Montse, and now floor is yours.
Thank you. The origin of this presentation was the creation at TV3, the public television, Catalan public television where I work, of an AI responsible commission with the aim of training employees and raising awareness about the importance of using AI tools in a responsible way. It's a cross-functional committee with representatives from different departments such as legal, production, engineering, training, innovation, and of course, archive. When we were invited to join that commission, we thought, okay, what do we want as archive from AI? What do we have now? What do we expect in the future? Because, and that make us make like a kind of report, making a list of wishes that we, as archivists, would like to ask AI to accomplish. There are two scenarios, as I said. One is, what do we have now? And what do we expect in the future? Now, we realized doing that exercise that we have a lot of AI content already in the archive. As you say, we have low quality images, still images that reflect situations, for example, during the COVID, that we cannot go inside the elder residences. We use still pictures made by AI. There are also videos which we can see. We can see perfectly that is made with AI. We have recreations. We have made colorization of images, such as the Spanish Civil War. We have podcasts generated with AI, and we realized that we already have AI content inside our archive, and that we are not, and it's not under our control. So that makes us realize and fear a little bit about this AI tsunami which is coming. We cannot control, but we can try to identify that content that is produced by AI. It's impossible in a big company to have all those employees saying, hey, I've used that AI content. It will arrive you at the archive. Hey, we will use this AI content for that piece. It's impossible because, as you know, in a television, people produce, and when it's produced, they forget about everything, even archive. And well, that's another example of things that we have in the already in the archive. But now you see that, and you've easily identified that is made with AI. But we will reach a point that it will be very difficult to identify what has been made by AI. And we also have songs in the radio by AI, automatic transcription, subtitles, sign language. As you see, we have a lot of things already made by AI. It's quite a mess. So what do we expect to receive in the archive in the future? We expect to find AI-generated raw materials, fictions. Maybe we will have AI presenters, AI sing language interpreters, songs using AI voices, podcasts. And how do we identify now the content made by AI in the archive? As I said, it's impossible to do it in a manual way. It's impossible. But we try. And how do we do it? We add a note in the rights disclaimer of the program, but then you don't really know, you know that some pieces in that program has been made, but you don't know which one. But in our MAM system is much more visible, this note. If we mark the shot that has been made by AI, it's more clear, you identify the shot, but maybe the user will not see the disclaimer. If the program identifies the usage of AI, should it be mandatory? We think that it should be. We have to advise the audience that we have made that by AI. But if it's on the screen, is easy to see, but if it's voiceover, how do we reflect that in the archive? Because we don't listen to all the program. So things are changing. So, for example, this is an example of a stamp made to advise that it has been by AI. But we realize that many AI-generated images are not identified in the archive. So from the archive, that's the second scenario. And from the archive, what would be our list of desires? What would ask AI? We need that, because this is another thing. When we talk in the commission, technology department wants to do a lot of things that we don't need it, that they like to play. But we need real things, real tools that help our job. So one first risk that we have is that nobody listens to us. We are here and we want to decide, okay? We realize that when talking, that as Fabio said, what we like is that we need advanced search. We need tools that helps to search in our collection. We know our collection, we know our keywords, but users don't. They need to ask the collection to be able to ask in a language which must be oral, easy, the speech that they use. They may be able to ask, check the Sagrada Familia, the transformation of the Sagrada Familia during 10 years in a normal speech, and that would help to research in the archive. Wait. We also would like to have conceptual and semantic search. For example, now we don't have our archive. It's not possible to say an answer, a question that says, give me some footage showing emotions, showing angry, or we cannot do that because we haven't described that shots. Maybe AI will help with that. For example, gender bias or offender comments that have been used for a long time, no? Because long time ago they were not offensive comments, but now society has moved and now is offensive comments. So how can we detect those offensive comments? Maybe AI will help us because we didn't, since they were not offensive at that time, we didn't mark that in our metadata, but now they are offensive. How do we find that comments? Maybe AI will help us. There are wishes that maybe there are some tools that can help us doing that, but we don't have integrated in our archive. For example, as I said, there are chat box, but we would prefer a natural language tool that you can, chat box is quite limited when you are asking some kind of shots. We would like also, for example, to identify content without restrictions, copyright, vulnerable people, drug addicts, any kind of image that you cannot offer that AI could identify. Yeah? Because if someone asks you, I want some children playing in the playground, you know you have to select which footage do you sell or do you offer, because faces cannot be recognizable, see? Maybe AI will help us with that kind of searches. We would like image and sound identification without manual description. We would also like detect visual patterns and technical feature identifying, for example, poor conditions of raw material, scratches, black frames, camera sweeps, movements of cameras, that it's impossible to identify that in all the raw material we have in the archive. Maybe if AI can say, okay, this is a list with time code, this is a black spot, this is a camera movement that you can validate if you want to erase or you want to keep it. It will also be very useful that AI could detect duplicates, photos and images. We know that there are some tools that already are doing that, but we don't have it in our archive. Maybe you have the same with digital content. It's very easy to repeat and repeat and repeat, and you have a lot of content that is the same, but you are unable to evaluate at that moment which is in best condition than other. So it will be very helpful if AI could identify, hey, those images are the same as this one, and this is in better condition than the other one. Image and sound restoration, as I said, inappropriate comments regarding sex, gender, and generate metadata, which is, as I said, I already said, interpretive metadata, no? Social values, emotions, humor, social criticism. And we could keep asking things forever because our list is never ending. But we have more questions than answers, as Marta said at the beginning. And our question is, if we are not able to identify, we need a digital mark to identify AI content generated by AI. And should we apply a different criteria if it's news than programs or entertainment, or not? Or should we have the same digital mark for everything? It's less damage. Is it less damage to not to advise that in an advertisement program you are using some footage which has been generated by AI? But we realize that in news, we all accept that news is, you have to advise audience that you are using AI-generated content. Because otherwise, how do we keep the authenticity that has been relevant all through the presentations of the archive? As we said, we often refer AI as tools that help us to improve our quality of work, but this same technology can contaminate our collections. And mixing real and AI images, it will be becoming more and more difficult to distinguish this image because AI will be better and better and better in the future. Well, another thing that we bear in mind is that what kind of information should we keep from the AI-generated content? Do we have to know why it has been created, the context, the date, the tool that has been used to generate that content? Will that be helpful in the future, or we don't care? We don't know. It will also, do we have to keep in the MAM system the rights on that generated content, or there will be a contract in other place in the company that will tell us what can we do with that material that has been incorporated in a production? And we have to be transparent to the users. We think that we have to advise when something has been generated and why it has been used. And another question that makes us feel a little bit worried, and is also, it has been also said before, is that which is the role that archives have to take when defining, giving the metadata set to the AI companies? Can we give our opinion? Can we select the material that we think it's able to train the metadata systems or not? Or is the company's metadata, is not archives metadata? We would like to have an active role when offering the metadata to the technologies companies. And well, that's our desires. I don't know if we will ever have those lists achieved, but
Maybe we
anyway.
have a software developer in a room, and
Sorry?
maybe we have a software developer in a room, and everything is already.
That can help us, yeah. It will
Someone
be
might
very
already
grateful.
snapshots of all your wish list. Thank you so much for sharing your wish lists, and I think many of those wishes are our common wishes, but intentionally we cover such a broad spectrum of needs and perspective that I would just suggest that we briefly come back to the theme of our panel, which is integrity and authenticity, and the documentation and transparency is not something new for the archives. We had to do it before in the restoration work we do, and a decision which is changing the archival material is just the level of the change we are now experiencing quite different and quite more difficult to trace than before. So it's an open question, but I mostly look at my archival connected colleagues. How would you mark the provenance of both information metadata, description metadata, which were created by non-human agents for future use, that you know that this information was not created by human, and how do you think it's important to know which restoration tool is not traditional, but it's with use of AI enhanced machinery, because it's not something we will come. We already experienced it, that this machine learning algorithms are already included in a software. How would you like to both use them but keep the archive transparent and keep the authenticity of object not challenged?
Well, I seem I'm the most suited to respond to that. So in the case of generative image metadata, to be honest, that problem solves itself, but not by ourselves. It's not even solved by a commission. It was not even solved by an organization. It was solved by the people creating the tools. So if one of the most, I would say the most used tool to create generative images and videos is called Comfy UI. It's like a workflow tool. You will see it's kind of full of notes and whatever. So when people create images and videos there, all the metadata that was created, including the initial image that was used or the initial prompt that was used, all the notes that have included, even the prompt, are embedded into the final result. And why they did that? They didn't do that because they believe in provenance. They didn't do that because they believe in our shared collectives of knowing about the content's authenticity. They did it because they wanted to share online with other people, and they wanted to reproduce the same thing. Because if you have the same parameters, the same input image, the same seed, and the same prompt, you will achieve the same result. So they already solved the issue. The problem right now is that we have a lot of different institutions or like ways of trying to gather metadata that are like competing or trying to make it work in a more formal environment. But I will say, again, if you take the raw metadata of whatever is in the internet right now, you have something. You have some provenance. And regarding the point about what's the limit of how do we mark if a tool, especially a restoration tool, has been using machine learning or not, it's kind of difficult because most of those tools, they use it as an assistive method. And now AI as it is right now, the way that AI works, especially for film, it wouldn't be usable because everything has to go in what's called latent space. So latent space, by its own nature, it's noise. Since it's noise, and it has to reconstruct that image from noise, then all the fine detail of film is going to be lost. So you will immediately know when an image has been tried to be processed by those AI by AI tools. So the only thing that they can do is try to do some sort of pixel interpretation of in-painting or out-painting to try to, like, say, some sort of Photoshop heal or some sort of, like, magic eraser or some sort of thing like that in order to mask those parts. But in a way, I wouldn't say it's like 100% ready for the type of work that we do. And unless you are running a whole movie through that pipeline, there is not really that much provenance made about that workflow.
From our perspective, probably it's more difficult because we are just receiving some information, and we can ask, of course, the creators if they used some kind of tools. That's why we are doing some kind of questionnaires and policies about the usage of an AI. But on the other hand, if we think about the metadata generated by AI and incorporate it into the whole workflow internally in archive, I strongly believe that there should be a visible separation of what was generated by AI, and a whole provenance of the information should be somehow visible on the data level, where you can just separate the generated automatically content from the one that was created or corrected by human. So having the full workflow and the content that has been created in your, for example, collection management system is greatly beneficial for everyone, because you can observe how content has been generated, what kind of results it's shown when used by some kind of AI model, or how the model is learning and, let's say, choosing the description, the type of description, the words, and how you can, for example, make it learn better from how you are correcting the content. But it should be fully transparent and visible what has been created, and even if you are correcting that, it should be somehow noted in the context.
Thank you. I think we have like two questions or three from the audience. So if you or comments. So if you would like to address our dear panelists, it will be, that's the moment.
Yeah, thanks so much. This was very rich. It touched upon AI use in archive workflow and authenticity and provenance, everything. Ilana, to your point about engaging with filmmakers, the filmmakers that come to you and say, I would like you to do research and, make it like 100% human created. How do those conversations go? What are for producers the incentives to not take like shortcuts, but rather to go, on holiday to Spain and that kind of engagement? I'm curious to hear those arguments, and also how that can sort of inform us how maybe in the future different types of materials are being created, much more like boutique and much maybe more fast moving. I don't know.
I mean, in terms of arguments, and I say that, kindly, I would say I'm usually the one on the side saying, let's do it this way. I would love to be part of more conversations from producers where they say, please make sure everything is human-made. That would really be my hope going forward as an archive producer. But again, it comes down to that transparency. Because I think what's happening more frequently is I get the rug pulled out under me, where I've had to start having conversations at the beginning about how is this production going to utilize AI. Because there's times that I turn in my research, I say, here's the footage, here's it, let me know what you want to clear, and I get the response, okay, this is great, we're gonna just generate something from this. And I go, I'm off this project. I'm really not okay with that, and I'm not going to put my name as a researcher on something that is not human made. That was generated by AI. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer exactly, but just to that point, I really, I think it really just comes down to transparency and teams being extremely clear about where and when and how AI is being used, and preferably, on my part at least as an archival producer and researcher, let's please prioritize human-made work. Because if we got into this to make art, why is everyone trying to not be an artist? So many people say, I want to be a script writer, but I'm going to just chat GPT a script. Well, then you don't want to become a writer. Becoming is the biggest part of it. And messing up and learning and making something bad sometimes and making something incomplete is, I think, always going to have more human value to the art world than anything generated by AI.
I was hoping in something more optimistic or kind of, how can I say?
I want to be more optimistic. Help make me more optimistic.
I mean, of course, you were very honest, so I appreciate that, of course. But I was wondering, the landscape I see in front of us is not at all comforting, in the sense that we are basically relying on wishful thinking and ethics coming from from producers, researchers, and so on, hoping that they will state that this has been AI generated or things like this. I know that there are some technologies that are trying to replace this blind trust with some more objective kind of rules. The C2PA, for example, and the other initiatives are trying to do that. I was wondering if there is some archives that are experimenting with these technologies, because I think otherwise we are really risking to pollute our archives with content, and things will get worse and worse, of course, because with time passing and the quality of these tools improving more and more, it would be basically impossible to distinguish. So I was wondering if there are either the kind of technological enforcement that you are trying to apply in your archive, or at least strict procedure, like saying to the production teams, you have to have an edit list in which you clearly define which are the AI-generated shots or things like this. Because while I think on the metadata enrichment, this is kind of easy because you govern the process, basically. So you are the one, as archivists, that are using the tools, and so you can easily, in your data model, say, okay, this metadata has been added by a software agent. And so you state that. I think this is fair enough in terms of transparency, and it's okay. But, of course, there are more nuanced issues in terms of bias they are going to introduce and things like that. But at least you can state this has been automatically generated, and users can know that. But with content, if we don't have a way to put the mark that you were showing us automatically or in some other way in the content, then it's very risky, because in 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 50 years from now, this content will be, I mean, researchers maybe, we will discuss and we make a PhD thesis based on something that never existed eventually. So I think that this is a serious problem. So I was wondering if apart from this...
Marco, it was supposed to be optimistic. You were asking
I'm not. On this, I'm not at all. I was hoping to receive some kind of optimistic. I mean, at least some kind of light saying, yeah, we're trying to enforce this kind of policies or so I was wondering if also here in the room there are some archives that are...
So it's a group therapy for people scared of AI, challenging
I will
AI.
attend that. I will attend that session.
And I think it's also a question for not only for the archives, because we are in the very end of this tale, but on the institution where funding production of new films.
No, true. No, in fact, that was...
And we, of course, in our Polish context, we would ask Polish Film Institute about how they are controlling which element of new produced films was created with use and what kind of use of AI. And I hope they will introduce such a policy, because we are getting film
it's already
elements
introduced.
on
In the operating program of the Polish Film Institute, there is a point to tack if I used AI in the film production. However, the responsibility is over the artist, the filmmaker, the producer. Yes, even some part of the film is generated, they give their own name and they accept the result showing to the audience. So this is also a problem of the critical accept or a kind of not just agree to good enough, but have a quite elaborated vision and expectation toward the art and culture.
And Marco, we ask to the committee a digital mark for that reason, because now we realize, when we started the report, we realized that many AI-generated content was already in the archive without identification. And that makes, oh wow, it's too late. And we realized that there is a policy in my company that news, AI, it's not forbidden for everything, but almost forbidden. You cannot use AI content in a news program. In entertainment or other kind of programs, it's acceptable, but always with advising that the audience that it has been generated by AI.
The only thing that I would add there is that the best way to make this work, at least at the beginning, is to make the platforms play ball. So the way that, it's basically, if Netflix and Amazon and whatever, they enforce the requirements of the provenance metadata in all the productions, then with time, people will get used to enforcing those metadatas. And obviously as well, archives, especially big archives and big televisions, big television operators, if they start enforcing those, especially in fiction, I will start with fiction because I know that news is going to be a mess, but we start with fiction and we start enforcing those requirements that every person that is going to work in any part of this needs to put the provenance metadata, then that provenance metadata will get normalized, and that normalization will make people start using it all the time. And camera manufacturers will start using provenance metadata. All the people, I mean, if Netflix comes with that requirement, then at the next day, OpenAI, Anthropic, and everybody else would play ball in the next few hours. So again, it's a matter of just having somebody on the top, especially in the top of the production chain, doing that mandate, and everybody will play ball. Obviously, non-fiction is going to be a mess. That's going to take some time, and it's going to be really difficult, especially in the news department. But everybody, at least in fiction, there is some hope.
But it will only cover video generation, not really the script writing, not the dialogue list, and all the creative work which, yes, build the complex work which is film.
I mean, in the case of script writing, you could put like Final Draft could have. I mean, if Final Draft is using any kind of generative AI to adjust, then the script comes with some metadata. And that script that Netflix gets needs to have that metadata. So again, it's going to be difficult to enforce, but it needs to come from somebody. Because it's the same thing like enforcing HDR or enforcing Dolby Vision. It's a standard. So if everybody needs to follow the standard because the platform wants the standard, then they will follow it.
And would you advise, for example, in a Netflix fiction film, you would say this fiction incorporates some AI-generated content as general, or it has to specify which scene it has been generated by AI, because it could be bothering the viewer?
I think it will be maybe at the end. I mean, depending. I think at the beginning, right now, they will have to put like something at the beginning because they will have to make a statement. Because right now they need to make that statement. But later, when it gets normalized, you can put it at the end, like normal credits. It's basically VFX at this point. It will become something like VFX. You will put like AI generated department and this gigantic list of whatever they did.
So you will need also to discriminate virtual production and virtual, virtual production as a scenery to the filmmaking and generative film, yes?
Yeah,
So
I mean, because
generative.
even in virtual production, they can use artificial backgrounds created.
Yes, they use,
They
yes,
use.
because,
Yeah.
yes, it's this easier.
Yeah, but it is a different story. Sorry, I mean we are
Why?
mixing.
Why?
No, it's totally different story. Sorry, because we are talking about. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, you cannot compare the impact that these kind of things have on the archive with the virtual production and visual effects. Because of course the technology is the same exactly. So
You are just scrapping the scenery, yes, and put into virtual production.
No, the problem is that when in a docu-fiction, so in a documentary which has inserted inside virtual content, which is not true, is artificially created, and this become undistinguishable, or as Ilana was mentioning, the fact that a producer to saving costs and not paying licenses is just taking as a reference the original footage and creating artificially similar one, may be creating also completely false narratives or invented narratives, let's put it like this. This is super dangerous because then this content in this documentary will become in 20 years from now, the archive, the content in the archive, and how we can distinguish between what is true, what is...
But
so
it really documents the reality we are living in.
Yeah,
is
okay,
it not
but
at
this
the
is not,
archive role?
but we cannot just say this is
It
like
is.
Spider-Man.
It is archive role.
I mean, we're talking about a documentary, not the Fantastic Four with you know effects in it. So it's a bit of different impact. So I think it's we should be very careful and distinguish this completely compared to what is simply virtual production or virtual effects. And I think also the approach saying, well, should be enforced by someone like higher, I don't know, the god of production or Netflix.
His name is Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, I understand what you are saying. And it always works like this, often works like this. But in this case, it's something that probably we should try to control and regulate. Or at least, we cannot do that, but at least lobby for regulate this in a different way, not just waiting that.
No, and
Jeff
I understand
Bezos,
because
you know.
I had this conversation once with the person that they were doing what's called like you know, journalism of people like in like places in conflict. So and then obviously there is an interest of creating generative AI depictions of that conflict as well for each side, for both sides. And again, if those people don't have access to any sort of provenance metadata, then everything that you receive will have to be really scrutinized to a degree that there is going to be a filter, and that filter is going to be so high that some real images and some real videos may not pass that filter. So yeah, and I understand that it's going to be difficult for especially for those places. But again, if everybody's going to play the provenance game, especially in nonfiction, then you'll have to accept that you're going to lose a lot of the people that couldn't play that game as well, and those are going to be people that may have been in this conflict situation, impoverished situations, disadvantaged situations that may not have the tools or may not have the time to properly embed those metadata provenance metadata.
Well, there are two sides of this particular issue. One is how they will get the footage to create some kind of variations made by AI. And that's very easy because those tools are available and everyone basically with the footage can do that right now with ChatGPT and other software that is actually using AI. So one thing is the role of archive to be the guardian of the truth and you know, spotting and showing exactly what has been digested and on what kind of footage that kind of, let's say, experiments were created. That's one part. And the other part is that at the moment we are in the process of some kind of legalization of the usage of this new technology, because it was like this big boom moment in terms of development of AI, where everyone was very enthusiastic. That's so great, you can do everything with it. And there was no kind of policies that will like regulate the usage. And it's not only this energy, positive energy coming with new technology, but it's also obligation and some kind of necessity to have policies that will regulate the usage of those tools, like every other technological software that has been incorporated into workflow of the production for the video or audio content. So that's one part. We need to create policies and laws that will regulate that. It's not easy because those big techs are so strong and heavy with popularizing the content made this way. So it's a very long topic, but I think the moral role is basically on archive and the people who are creating those footages to be the guardians of the truth.
Everyone get more ethical now.
I don't want to stop this heated discussion, and I absolutely enjoy it. I'm just moving it to the foyer, but I think it's a good end of encouraging us to collaborate, because we are having very similar problems, and by cooperating and sharing our user cases, what kind of technology we are acquiring, being ourselves transparent, we can make a greater pressure on big players who are providing these technologies. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts. Thank you for staying with us till the end, and we see you tomorrow at 10:30. I hope you enjoy this day, and there will be more interesting discussions for you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you.